One voice, though, who cannot be ignored is my big guest today, Mosab. His father created Hamas. He's now become one of the most powerful voices in trying to dismantle it, trying to expose it, trying to show the weak, woke, Western useful idiots that they are supporting terrorists. This man is a superb human being who puts himself at great risk. The battle is so much bigger now than just Hamas-Israel. This is a battle for everything we believe in, for Western civilization and values. And he is not slowing down in this fight. This is a really powerful conversation. I'll see you afterwards. Mosab, I wanted to start by thanking you so sincerely and genuinely for not just coming on this show, but for every single thing you do in this space. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
How does one go from the son of the founder of Hamas to someone who is now nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize? How does that happen?
It has been a long journey. It's not an easy one. And the beginning of it was not being brought up in Hamas household. And the end of it is not by any award. I'm not looking for anything. And most importantly for me, to stay truthful to who I am. I have been fighting the good fight within the best of my ability. My rejection of violence, especially terror targeting civilians indiscriminately, which is something I could not accept. Something wrong was with that approach, with that philosophy. When I opposed it, the distance started happening between me and that culture. And of course, unfortunately, unlike other cultures, there is no freedom of speech. My opposition to violence meant treason in that culture. Unlike, let's say, democratic models where when you oppose violence, people will say, thank you. Thank you for your moral stand. In that culture, people say, a traitor. So the moment they accuse you by this and put a death sentence on you, then this is a broken bone that you cannot repair. And the distance kept widening, and here we are. It's a huge distance between me and my birthplace and my early life conditioning. And to me, it's very strange that I'm coming back to even talk about it. I thought I would never talk about it again. I had moved on a long time ago. I started a new life somewhere far away from the Middle East. But October 7 events brought me back, and I have moral responsibility, at least to say, towards this chaos.
How old were you when you first started to question what was considered normal around you? Do you remember a moment or witnessing something and just feeling sick or thinking this is not who I am or who we should be?
Look, I don't exaggerate when I say, as a child, I was beaten up pretty much everywhere, in the school, in the mosque, at home, in the streets. I witnessed so much violence, especially against women, Many innocent women were killed under the law of honor. It's a culture. The culture of the Middle East is based on honor and shame. It's not based on right or wrong or vice and virtue. So people could be doing something completely wrong, like, killing a woman for having a relationship with a man outside of a wedlock, let's say, which is something I don't encourage to do. But still, if the woman gets the reputation among the society that she's being playful outside of a wedlock, her parents would decide to kill her. Her brother would kill her. Her cousins would kill her. And in many cases, some women actually had just a bad reputation, but even though in reality they did not commit anything against the culture, but the bad reputation was enough to make a father kill his daughter in an attempt to bury the shame with her. And I saw that firsthand with my own eyes, a father killing his daughter at a very, very young age. Growing up and seeing the violence, like in the math class or in the English class, when the principal, brutally beat me and encouraged other students to beat me in the class, as also he encouraged me to beat other students when they did not solve a problem. How can you learn anything in such environment? And when the parents are ashamed, then they are going to try to convince you. And if you're not behaving yourself, they're not going to beat you up. That kind of culture. I don't think today the situation is still the same, but most kids in my under similar circumstances were totally destroyed. And I don't know, it's just a miracle how I survived such violence. And this is why today when I oppose terrorist violence, I know it comes from the culture. It's not about land, it's not about resistance, not about occupation. It's just a very violent culture. And of course, one of the things that I hated was to export or blame Israel on our social problems, things like by the name of occupation. I did not buy it. I did not buy it. This experience, of course, became at its climax, if I can say, when I was in prison. My first imprisonment, I spent about 16 months among Hamas leaders and among Hamas members. Hamas was desperately seeking or trying to find who gave information to Israel, basically looking for suspect collaborators. During that time, Hamas killed and tortured hundreds of prisoners. And let me name some of these people who were in prison at that time, responsible for the torture. Sheikh Saleh al-Aruri, one of the architects of October 7 attacks. Yahya Sinwar. Ismail Haniyeh was the head of the Hamas security wing. Ibrahim Hamid, mass murderer, who Hamas want to release in exchange for the innocent hostages in Gaza. Abdullah al-Barghouthi, Hamas bomb maker. They want him released in exchange for the hostages. So what a coincidence that I had to live with these people firsthand and see their brutality. And in many of the cases, the prisoners who were tortured in prison, and I'm talking about Palestinian prisoners, Hamas members, as you maybe see some of the videos circulating on the social media where Hamas brutally beating people, Gazans. This is not a surprise to me. And the world is in denial. Even though I brought to them a first-hand experience, to them, these people cannot be trusted with anything. They don't have accountability to any human value. Their interest is in the afterlife. Their interest is not in this life. They don't have the capacity or the will or the desire to build. They only know how to destroy. So, but for some reason, people don't want to listen because it looks like I invite them to get out of their comfort zone and think that this is not just a two-dimensional reality. It's a paradox. And if they haven't lived it, they're only capable to see just one side of that paradox. So anyway, the experience in prison, that was, if I can say, if it's accurate to say, a turning point. But the truth is, it's a chain of events. It's a chain of events. All of them are depending on each other. And this is how I arrived at this place and at this space. I can go on and on forever trying to describe this problem. And from the beginning of this war, I said, don't blame Israel. Israel is not the problem in this case. It's people seeking death and committing basically suicide. So all the attempts to try to blame Israel and say because of the occupation we have this problem is untrue. We can look at Syria. Look what happened to the Druze just recently. Look at Lebanon, what the Palestinians did in Lebanon. Look at Jordan, what they did in Jordan. It's a phenomena. It's a 7th century mentality, tribalism, does not believe in democracy. And all the Western countries trying to push democratic values on such society will not work because they don't embrace it, basically. So I don't know where is the beginning and how the end is going to be. It is what it is, and I hope more people will listen.
Did you tell your family, your father? How did that conversation go, or did you just have to flee, basically?
Look, I left the region back in 2007, and I was safe. I had the opportunity to start a new life. I did not need to write a book about my events in the Middle East and my adventure and my journey, but I felt the responsibility. This is why I wrote the book, and I dedicated actually to my family and to my father. I wanted my father to see through my lens. He was not aware of my actions, especially counterterrorism, which was a very difficult choice for me to do.
I
I saved
understand.
his life. I saved so many other lives, including terrorists, by the way, that I opposed their arrest. And in many cases, I had to go to prison because I refused their assassination. During the Second Intifada, Israel suffered more than 100 suicide bombing attacks. And I did everything within my ability to stop suicide bombers before they reach their target, killing civilians indiscriminately, which, by the way, were not only Jews.
Yeah.
Arabs, Muslims, foreigners, all type of people were killed. Hamas bombed universities. Take the Hebrew University, for example. 6 American students were killed, or I think 5 American students, and other nationals and Jews and students in the cafeteria. Ibrahim Hamid and Muhammad Irman put the bomb in the Hebrew University cafeteria. They targeted everywhere. And for me, it was not only wrong, it was evil what they were doing. And my father, of course, was giving them the political cover. He was not directly involved in the suicide bombing attacks, and he did not know the nature of the military wing and how they operate. But I had lots of access to the masterminds of Hamas military wing. I knew a lot about them. And humbly, I'm saying, I knew about them a lot more than my father did.
Yeah.
So when I wrote the book, I wanted him to just understand the dynamic of such a new generation of Hamas that he was not actually in charge of, that he could not control. A new generation like the Sinwar generation, like Haniya generation, like now what we see the Hamas, what's so-called Nukhba, and what they did on October 7. My father, as one of the founders of Hamas and the early leaders of the movement, who dedicated his entire life to the movement, he does not have control over this new generation. You know, the same way Yasser Arafat did not have control over Hamas when he returned to the territories. So, and it was very important for me to just show him that what he started back in 1987 as a small flame or a small fire, it became just a wildfire that nobody can put down. And this is why I dedicated the book to him.
Yeah.
And I revealed myself, knowing that I'm going to be accused of treason and a death sentence is going to be put over my head. I knew that. It's not like very different when someone is hiding in the shadows, betraying, let's say, a country, selling intellectual property or secrets of a nation to some foreign entity for selfish interest.
Yeah.
In my case, I traded all my security and status, my comfort, for the sake of saving human lives. It cannot be compared. If I wanted money or fame or power, this was all within Hamas. At some point, I was in charge of Hamas money. So anyway, that was my moral responsibility, and I decided not to keep it in the hiding. It was part of my integrity and my responsibility, especially after I left the region safely, to write it down firsthand with integrity, honesty, what's for me and what's against me, and offer it to my father and my people in order to see through my lens. And unfortunately, it looks like it did not make any change in the way that they see reality. Instead, they shunned me, they accused me of treason, and they sentenced me to death.
You don't have to answer this, it's very personal. Do you love your father?
Of course, like, how can I hate my father? You know, it's all a love relationship between me and my family. I filled the void when my father was gone for so many years. You know, I raised my siblings. I took care of my mother. I was juggling with so many things in my hand, trying to fill the void when he was busy doing Hamas business. And I myself suffered as a child because of his Islamic project and Hamas project. I myself was in prison close to 2 years because of this thing. And here we are. It's not a hate relationship. And the irony that we respect each other very, very much. And this is why, you know, when I speak and you see the fury and when you see the fire, when I speak and people think that this is emotional rant, they don't understand. He's a very, very powerful public speaker. And I speak his language. I am the counterforce to him. And it is out of love. And by the way, these artificial people who don't understand the depth of this relationship, there is no greater war in the universe than father and a son, especially when there is a justified crucifixion in the middle of it. And if the world think that this is just a matter of family business, they're totally mistaken. So sooner or later they will understand. My father maybe was capable of creating Hamas, and now it's spreading like wildfire around the globe as a resistance movement, as freedom fighting. But what he does not understand, that I would create a counter force that's much greater. If he's the river, I am the sea. You know, if he's the wave, I'm a tsunami. There is no way around it. They must stop. They cannot conquer humanity. They cannot enslave humanity by the name of Palestine, by the name of jihad, by the name of whatever it is. It's very simple. This is not the way of life. Life depends on diversity. All people are children of the divine. Does not make the Muslims or the Muslim Brotherhood or jihadists superior in any way. They are not. So this delusion must come to an end. And this is my job. My job is not Palestine or Israel. I'm not advocating on behalf of anybody. This has to come to a state of equilibrium, and it's between me and my father, and it's not based on hatred. He must come to an understanding that targeting civilians is not acceptable. And I don't give a fuck about Palestine, and I don't give a fuck about Hamas. So he can insist on his position, and I will keep fighting. And my fight is not, again, is not driven by hatred. It's the easy thing to be driven by hatred. It's driven by much greater love. And I hope that at some point we can settle it down, because otherwise it is going to be the destruction of everything.
I'm not normally speechless after someone speaks. I've interviewed some incredible people, but I'm almost speechless now. You are unbelievably brave and incredibly smart and wholly decent. We're so lucky to have you. You mentioned a sandcastle to me when we were talking before we started recording. Right. And I think we've reached a point now where we're starting to see people maybe wake up. But every time I feel like we're there, I then get disappointed and let down. Do you feel like, is the world starting to wake up to not just what's happening in Gaza and the evil of Hamas, but the ideology that's trying to infect Western minds everywhere?
The world is actually, unfortunately, is buying this delusion and this victim narrative. And we are going now in the opposite direction. From the beginning of the war, I said, keep it in Gaza. It has the potential to become a regional war. The United Nations, the United States president, nobody listened, even though I was shouting out loud, understanding the seriousness of this situation. I said, open the borders and get the civilians out of Gaza to Sinai. Take the card from Hamas, because I knew that is going to be a massacre. And nobody listened. And the irony that today they come and they accuse me of conspiring against Gaza, while from the early beginning, when they were busy triumphing on the wounds and the bleeding of the nation of Israel, I was very busy to say, get the civilians out, the most vulnerable people, women and children. Nobody listened. And today, this tragedy has been fueling global chaos. And Israel is taking the blame. The majority are unconscious. They don't understand the danger of this. And I said from the beginning, Israel is a blueprint. It's a pillar. It's a significant pillar in the structure of our civilization.
Yeah.
Take it away, and the entire building might collapse. I don't want to say certainly will collapse. And instead of understanding the dynamic of this demonic game, everybody seems to be agreeing with the narrative that Israel is the root cause of evil, not only in the Middle East, in the world. So how can we be heading in the right direction? No, we are not heading in the right direction. You know, we are taking the most productive, most educated, most intelligent minority with a great contribution. I don't want to say the greatest contribution to life in pretty much every field, and we are intimidating them. Do you think they will continue to be productive and part of our societies if we just keep intimidating them like this, isolating them? We want to sanction them. And we fill in the trap of jihadists and Palestinian fanatics who have been demonizing and dehumanizing the Jewish people. This is going to have a very serious impact on civilization sooner or later. You know, today I'm here in Israel and I see lots of immigration. Many of the Jewish people around the world bringing their money, bringing their brains back home to where they belong. And who's going to pay the price? And what are we trading this successful minority with? Illegal migrants who are intimidating us in the streets, in their demonstrations, jihadists, Muslim fanatics, leftists who are with very small contribution to life. So the West is doing a very dangerous mistake, and they will not understand the consequences until it's too late. Israel, by the way, is a fortress. Is a fortress. Nothing can penetrate it. October 7th was an exception. And it's not going to happen again, ever again. This is it. And all the attempts to push Palestinian state to sit on the top of parts of the state of Israel are not going to bear fruit. No one has that kind of authority. Even if Israel is sanctioned, even if the United States abandons Israel at some point, this is not going to happen. Israel is an independent state with limitless resources, independent on its own. And if necessary, it can fight at 10 fronts simultaneously. No other country can do this. It's not about how many guns you have. It's about how much intelligence they have. Yeah. And this is the difference. And countries understand this. But compromised politicians, unfortunately, trying to please the newcomers, the Muslim migrants, who now become a voting base. This is what they are trading. They are trading Jewish intelligence for a bunch of votes so they can stay in their small, short-term political trip. So this is the reality we are dealing with, and we are not heading in the right direction. And it's just a matter of time before the world understands this reality.
Look, I agree entirely. The only thing that gives me some hope is the likes of 1 million people expected to march in the UK with the Tommy Robinson movement. Do you see that and think, are people starting to get sick of what's going on, particularly in the UK, where judges are ruling that, yes, parents have every right to be worried about their kids' safety, but we're not going to protect their kids because it might, you know, ruin the status quo? And people are, do you think people are starting to say, no, we've had enough, or not yet?
No, this is not good at all. It's very dangerous what's happening. This is the recipe for a civil war.
Yeah.
And the government should take responsibility. This is what happens when the government betrays indigenous of the land and give priority to illegal migrants who have failed to integrate into the society, to appreciate and respect the diversity and the values, the ethics of the Western civilization. Generation after generation, how many generations of those Muslims come into the West who just instead of integrating and transforming, they went back to the old habits, and they, instead of bringing the West to the East, they want to bring Mecca to the West. The Meccan values, 7th century mentality, where in Mecca, non-Muslims are not even allowed. Why? Because they are considered filth. And this is Saudi Arabia that is, has bought huge parts of London, of the British bonds, of the French bond. And of course, politicians have been compromised. So now instead of serving their own people, they are serving the interests of foreign entities. This is the financial jihad that we are dealing with. It's not only, jihad is not only physical by the means of the sword. There is financial jihad. Actually, the Muslims who choose not to fight physically by the means of the gun, they are encouraged in the Quran to fight with their money. And today, when we look how much assets they have been buying, you understand that this is a financial, economical, diplomatic jihad, taking advantage and exploiting the democratic values. And people are not understanding the culture and the danger of such thing. So now what happens in this situation? If the government continues to betray the indigenous of the land, and the people will continue to feel unsafe, of course they are going to fight and take the fight on their own. But in this case, Europe would be heading towards a civil war, because I know for sure the Muslims won't be able to conquer Europe. They cannot, not through democracy, not through violence. People are not stupid, and they see the situation, and they see the propaganda, and all the attempts to launch the Islamic attempt to take over. So if they continue failing their people, it's going to turn violent.
Yeah.
And this could lead to the collapse of governments, could lead to the collapse of society. Previously, I said that Western leaders who don't understand this situation will fall, and people take it out of the context. As I was a Mossad threatening Western politicians. This is the game of manipulation. And simply what I'm saying, if Western leaders don't serve their people, their countries, their constitution, and keep their state of denial, the situation is going to explode sooner or later. And I don't think that this right now, what I see, the counterforce that is happening, it may look that it's a good sign. But hopefully, we don't have to go into a phase where there is
It won't be
bloodshed.
needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, really well said. Absolutely. I want to ask you, I know we're running out of time. Hamas, what is their weakness? How do you defeat them?
Look, Hamas is embedded in Gaza. It's not only Hamas, it's Palestinianism. This is the dangerous indoctrination of the victim narrative. Palestinianism. As long as there is Palestine, we can remove Hamas, but tomorrow there would be Islamic Jihad. We remove Islamic Jihad, then we will have the communists. Then when we're done with the communists, they're going to be the socialists. Or now we have a new generation of Palestinians. Anybody can just put a scarf or a keffiyeh and say, I'm a Palestinian. I'm a believer in the cause of Palestine. It's not a bloodline. Unlike the Jews. Yeah, the person has to come out of a Jewish womb to be a Jew. A Palestinian can come from any rabbit hole and say, I am a Palestinian. So how can we satisfy their differences that can never be reconciled? They're opposing forces. They're conflicted. It's not only the problem with Hamas. It's with the other colors of Palestine. It has millions of faces that you think that you are rationalizing with one side, but
Yeah.
it has so many other aspects to it. They don't have a legitimate leadership. They don't have a goal. It's a revolution. It's an anarchy. A revolution unlike any other revolutions, with no moral compass, with no resolution, with no destination. You don't know. Yesterday they may ask for part of the land, but tomorrow they're going to ask for the entire land. And if they succeed in destroying Israel, then it's not going to be enough, because we know what they're going to do in Jordan. We, based on experience, in fact, on history, we know what Palestinians did in Lebanon. They destroyed Lebanon. 15 years of civil war. And Lebanon has not recovered yet. Palestinianism is a very dangerous indoctrination. Victim narrative is a very dangerous narrative, and it's spreading like wildfire. So now the problem is not Hamas. After October 7, and all those who decided to sympathize, to legitimize, justify the terrorist act on October 7 are Palestinians. It's not ethnicity, it's not a human race. It's a political movement. It's the new Nazis, if you wish. And now, our fight is not only with Hamas anymore. On October 7, it was a fight against Hamas, and Israel was very clear. It declared only war against Hamas, not against Palestinians. But on October 8th, Palestinians, whether if they are in the West Bank, in Gaza, worldwide, and their supporters, triumphed and celebrated Hamas attacks. Later on, they justified Hamas attacks. And when Hamas weaponized civilians, they start screaming, genocide, genocide, spreading Hamas propaganda and Hamas lies with no facts. Even though Israel has been doing everything within their ability to minimize the civilian casualties in Gaza. So now, with that said, the Palestinians worldwide declared war not only against Israel, but against the Jewish nation, against the Western civilization. They are the inner enemy that should not be underestimated. This is the reality we are dealing with. So Hamas defeat is not enough, not anymore. And as long as we have a Palestinian false identity, we are going to have a problem with terrorism. They will breed more violence, more barbarism. So with that said, we have no choice, and I include myself, and I take moral responsibility for it. And I don't give a fuck about the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't want rewards for this. This is a war. And we cannot achieve peace except through the means of the sword now. We must counter them. So what we need to finish the job. And anyone who takes the side of terrorists would be considered a terrorist. In this war, people need to understand you cannot be on this side, on the other side. You must choose. You take the side of good, you take the side of democracy, of value, of virtue, or you take the side of barbarism, terrorism, raping, killing, looting, kidnapping. It's two different sides. It does not take lots of intelligence to define the line, to see that this is the fine line that defines truth from falsehood, regardless of all the state of confusion and propaganda. So this is the reality we are dealing with, and we will fight them, we will hunt them down. It doesn't matter where they are. In Tehran, in Lebanon, in Yemen, even in the West, if they decide to harm innocent people and innocent civilians. This is a very clear message and it cannot be misunderstood. Take the side of Hamas, take the side of Palestinian terrorism, and you are an enemy, and we are coming after you.
You are, I'm getting emotional just because this is such a hard space. As a mum with a little girl, I get death threats from Iran daily. So to hear you say that, because I don't question it, I go to bed every night knowing I am on the right side of history. I have zero doubt there is no complexity. It is good versus evil, no doubt. But to hear you say that just gives me that reassurance that sometimes I need as well. So thank you.
You're most
Thank
welcome.
you.
Stay strong. This
Always.
fight is far from over, but we're going to kick their ass. Like literally, we are already kicking their ass. And this whole global chaos pro-Palestine, that's just a temporary thing. And the end
And
of
it's
the
insane,
day,
you know, I'm a mother. I care so much about, I see like a child with, you know, a sore finger and I want to cry, the thought of a child in pain. I care about every fucking kid in Gaza. I just know who their enemy is, and it's not fucking Israel. It's a lot sometimes, and you are amazing. Thank you for everything.
you're most welcome. And thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you for your courage, your bravery. And sooner or later, you are the one who should win the Nobel Peace Prize.
No.
For me, like right now, as you see, my statements are not going to qualify me.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. He's incredible. There's not enough words to describe not only what he's doing, but the weight behind it given who he is. It feels impossible sometimes, this fight, but when you've got people like him who are willing to give everything up, to join the right side of it, it's hard to describe, but he is just amazing. And his voice is a crucial part of us winning this battle of the minds as it has become.